Alright, so last Q&A of the year. You probably are thinking, damn, for last Q&A you probably got something special planned, something we've never seen before, and to that you would be right, of course, because these questions are all special because they came from you. But no, seriously, it's just another Q&A, but I like doing them, so it's special in that way, so let's kick it off. If you were to rewatch a series like Monogatari, would you rewatch it in release order or chronological order? Now, I've actually done both. When I initially got into it, I watched it in release order because I had no damn idea what order was supposed to be watched, so I just kind of looked at what year each of the things came out and did it from there. But I've rewatched that series about 4 or 5 times over different years, and typically I prefer chronological, but I do think in terms of an initial watch, the first time should be in release order. It's done like that for a reason, and any sort of rewatches, I think chronological is the best entertainment. Here's a question. If you could have your own personal stand or persona, what would it be? What aesthetics would it have, and what power would you give it? Honestly, anything relating to time I think is ridiculously OP. Probably like visually something to do with clocks and space-time continuums, stuff like that would probably be like the visual kind of side of things. But I just think the whole concept of being able to even just freeze time would be such an amazing ability. But even rewinding, like just, I don't know, I'm kind of a fat bastard in the way, like, how many times you eat a delicious dinner, you're like, damn, it's gone, I can't eat anymore, or I'll just get fat. Rewind that whole scenario, you just keep doing it. Or you could sleep for 20 hours if you want, but never waste a single time. Just stuff like that is just so practical and would make life so much longer and more fulfilling in my opinion, so I'd probably go in something in that area with like a time style design with, I don't know, maybe planets and universes as like kind of like a general aesthetic look to it, so something in there. Are there any anime adaptations of visual novels you would have wanted to review? You know, stuff like Key Animation Series, Charlotte, Rewrite, Angel Beats, Little Busters. The only thing that like maybe would be Rewrite. If anyone doesn't know, like I was a big fan of that anime, and I did end up playing about half of the routes in terms of where you can go in that game. It's just, it's such a time sink, right? I mean, it's hard to, you know, find the time to do all that. But I think in general, that could have been one that I would have been able to do reviews of like each arc in some way. So in hindsight, that would probably be the only one, but in general, I really have no desire. But there is sometimes those instances, like in the case of a Rewrite, where the passion's there, just sometimes the time isn't. Are there any anime you think are better on a rewatch? Absolutely. The one I'll always go back to the most are stuff like, well, Attack on Titan. I'm actually in the process of rewatching that. I'm almost done the final season, part 2 there, and just the whole concept of like that show and seeing the breadcrumbs and Isayama's masterclass work. It's just so great to see how planned that thing was. But even simpler shows like Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters or Pokemon or any of those simple shows from your childhood, I mean, it's so easy to just kind of get that nostalgia kick of reminding yourself why you loved it so much back in the day. But even as an adult, you still find just new things to appreciate it. And in the case of stuff like Yu-Gi-Oh!, if you wanted to go like the sub route, it becomes 10 times more dark than the dub version, which I still think, you know, the English VAs for that more than make up for the censorship. But there's different ways to enjoy it. But yeah, I mean, definitely shows that have such a long-term plan over like 10 years, like an Attack on Titan or nostalgia bait from your childhood. Of course, those shows are better on a rewatch. Which MC would you like to befriend most, and which would be the easier one to get along with you? Probably Yugi Moto, to be honest. There's something about that kid and just his desire to play cards, and especially if you watch the movie that they did that is canon to after where the manga leaves off, like the kid's like trying to make his own game and stuff. Like there's just something about that would be fun, or even like an Ash Ketchum. Like even though I'm kind of piggybacking off the last question, I just think like the whole simple concept of wanting to be the best in Duel Monsters, and in that case you'd have someone with like a Pharaoh Spear, so it'd be kind of cool in that way. Ash Ketchum, I mean, the boy finally became a Pokemon master. I mean, just that whole desire to go into those worlds, which I love so much, just to have those protagonists as like a friend. They'd be both easy to befriend, but also, you know, you would just have such a blast. It'd just be like when you were growing up, you'd have your best friend and you'd be playing your favorite card game or favorite sport, whatever it is. So I definitely think either Ash Ketchum or Yugi Moto would probably be up there in terms of both easy to befriend for me and them, and just honestly awesome to befriend in general. I'm subbed to your Patreon. I appreciate that. And of course, I recognize you, Alton. I notice you have 2 cats in your room. What are their names and what breeds are they? Love your content. Hey, I love your comments. So I have 2 cats. I have no idea their breeds. They're house cats. I mean, one I got from outside and the other was adopted from a humane society. So my cat is named Mitty. I actually named, it's gonna sound bad, but you know, I was watching Made in the Abyss at the time, and even though Mitty in Made in Abyss is a monstrosity visually, I love the name, and I just kind of looked at him. I was like, you know what? I'm naming you after Made in the Abyss, and that's how he got named. He's a chunky bastard, but love him. And my fiance's cat is named Penny. She is a mouthy bitch, but you know what? I love her too, but she's so mouthy, and I always have to give her attention as I'm doing my reactions, because that's where my main desk is in our living room, right? My recording setup's in a separate room, but yeah. So those are the 2 cats. I don't know their breeds at all. They're just generic house cats, all things considered, but they're both pretty good in their own way, but my cat's better. Considering that many animes are produced only to promote the original material, is there any anime that has motivated you enough to read the manga/novel, and if so, which one? There's not too many instances. I remember when Akame ga Kill initially ended, I did end up reading the manga for that just because I wanted to see more of it. Actually, no, it wasn't when it ended. It was like when we were halfway through the anime initially, I then read the manga just because at the time I was really big into it. Tokyo Ghoul I've read just because I wanted to see, and definitely the manga was better for sure. Though I still think Season 1 of Tokyo Ghoul holds up quite well, even in comparison. And the biggest one I'll always go back to is Attack on Titan. Once Season 1 ended, there's never been a show that's hooked me in quite like the first season of Attack on Titan. And I was a manga reader for damn near 8 years straight. And I was in the theorizing comments and stuff. I used to do manga reviews for that before they became copyright hell. So those are kind of ones. There's been select handfuls of times, but for the most part, if a show ends, I move on to the next anime. And whenever it gets a new season, I watch it. If it doesn't, I just tend to move on from it, sort of a thing. What are the best/worst war military styled anime that you've seen? I think the best, there's 2 that definitely come to mind. One would be like something like an Arslan Senki, which is a shame the anime never continued because that is a really, really good military war story. But I think one of the most easy and accepted answers the anime community would love to hear is 86, because that is just the amount of times I had people in my comments say I am literally a war vet, and the way they handle PTSD and just everything that this type of shit would do to people, kids or not. I thought it was fantastic. It's heartbreaking to see people say stuff like that, but I mean, just the fact that it hit that real and raw emotion is fantastic. In terms of the worst, I'm trying to think. There's this one show, I absolutely forget what it was called. It was something like, I think it was like Infinite Stratos or something. It was a harem anime. It had a few seasons, or at least 2 seasons. It's technically, I think, a military war story, but the whole mixture of dense MC, all these beauties who are also just kind of idiots in their own way, and the whole military stuff that they did with that's probably arguably one of the worst ones, but there's a lot you could probably pick from. What kind of setup do you use for PC/recording videos? Do you prefer buying one brand of tech or prefer to mix it up, and if so, what kind of tech brand is your favorite? So my camera is a Nikon. I use a Blue Yeti for my mic. I got a pretty generic laptop that I used to do my audio recording, and you know, I just use Audacity, and then I transfer it over to my actual PC. I don't know, because it's like a mix and bag. It's a really good PC. It is custom built and everything, but in terms of like brand loyalty, no. Whatever's cheap and works for me, sort of thing. The only brand I actively avoid is Apple. I just don't like the concept of Apple and how constantly they try to say they're upgrading stuff, but the price tag doesn't make sense. So I avoid Apple, but anything else I'm pretty much game for, more or less. I mean, I use the Adobes in perfectly legal ways, of course, in terms of editing my stuff, but yeah, in terms of like brand loyalty, absolutely not. That's it for this month's Q&A. Some good questions as always. If you have your own you want me to answer in next month's Q&A or a future Q&A if I get too many and have to save it, do let me know down below. You can consider supporting the Patreon. You'll get to see videos like these early before they get released for the public. Video shadows, live reactions, a bunch of fun stuff, so consider that if you so wish. Drop a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new around here, all that other fun jazz, you know the drill. So until next time, everyone, please take care. I think this video is going up before Christmas. If so, I hope you have a very happy holiday, and if it's already past the holiday, I hope you did have one, or have a happy new year. I don't know. Let's just end this. See ya.